You have said these 6 words your whole life. Be still, and know that I am God. You have seen them on coffee mugs, painted on living room walls, whispered in hospital waiting rooms in the dark hours before dawn. But the word the poet actually wrote is not a word about silence. In Hebrew, it is rapha, and rapha means to drop what is in your hands. This is not be still like a calm pond at sunrise. It is be still like a soldier who finally lets his sword fall. There is a weight to that word, a texture. It is the moment the fight drains out of a person's arms. Once you see what that word actually pictures, this verse stops being a gentle suggestion about your mood. It becomes something far more specific, far more urgent, an order you can obey on the worst day of your life, standing up in the middle of the noise, without pretending for 1 second that everything is fine. And there is one more place this same word appears, spoken by God about his own hands, and it turns the entire command upside down. Hold on to that one, because when we reach it, the thing you have been told to let go of will look completely different. We will earn our way there. To get there, we walk it in 5 steps. First, the word itself, and the picture hiding inside it. Second, the scene where it was spoken, which is nothing like a quiet chapel. Third, who it was actually aimed at. Fourth, the question everyone asks and almost no one answers. And fifth, the promise, buried underneath the whole thing. So let us start where the English cannot quite follow, with a single Hebrew verb and the strange physical thing it quietly asks your hands to do. Once you see it, you will not be able to unsee it. Start with the thing the English cannot quite carry. This is the first step, and everything after it grows out of this one. The Hebrew verb behind be still is rapha, and its root sense has nothing to do with quiet. It has to do with slackening, loosening, going limp. It is a word about tension, leaving something that was pulled tight. When the Hebrew Bible uses it in its plain form, it keeps describing the same physical thing. Hands, fingers dropping open, a grip failing, strength draining out of the arms of a person who has been holding on hard for too long and simply cannot hold on anymore. In one place, a whole nation hears that an enemy army is on the way, and the text says their hands go limp. That is rapha. The arms go slack. Whatever they were carrying, they are not carrying it now. So sit with that picture for a second, because it is the whole video in one image, hands opening, which means this command is not really aimed at your mind. It is not aimed at your voice, or your breathing, or how still you can make your face look in a hard moment. It is aimed lower than that. It is aimed at your hands, at the white knuckles, at whatever you are gripping so tightly right now that you have stopped noticing you are even doing it. And you know the feeling, even if it does not show up in your hands first, the jaw that will not loosen, the shoulders up around your ears, the same worry running on a loop at 2 in the morning, as if going over it one more time will finally make it behave. That is a grip too. This word is talking to all of it. Now here is the part most people never hear. In Psalm 46, rapha is not a description, it is a command. In the Hebrew, it is plural, spoken to a whole room of people at once, and it is what grammarians call causative, which is just a technical way of saying it does not only mean go limp, it means make it go limp. Cause the grip to open. Loosen your hold, on purpose, with your will, right now. That one shift changes everything about how you read the verse. It moves the whole thing out of the world of atmosphere and into the world of action. A calm pond at sunrise is something that happens to you. Opening your hands is something you choose to do, because the English tells you to stop. The Hebrew tells you what stops. Be still tells you to be quiet. Rapha tells you which muscles to unclench. And I want to be careful and honest here, because this is not some clever reading invented for a video. Open the standard Hebrew lexicons, the reference works scholars actually use, and you will find this range listed right there in black and white: to sink down, to let drop, to relax, to let go. The translators who wrote "be still" were not careless. They were reading the word honestly, and that phrase has carried real comfort to real people for 400 years. Going back to the Hebrew does not correct them. It just sharpens the focus. It tells you exactly which part of you the command is speaking to. Not your schedule, not your feelings, your hands. So already, Before we go anywhere near the history, or the burning battlefield, or the promise I told you to hold on to, you have the thing I promised you in the first 30 seconds. You know what this verse is actually asking? It is not asking you to feel calm. It is not asking you to fake some peaceful mood while your stomach is in knots. It is asking you to do one specific, physical, difficult thing. Open your hands. Let the thing you have been strangling fall. But a command like that raises an obvious question. Open your hands where? Because if you drop what you are holding in the wrong room at the wrong moment, that is not trust. That is just letting go and hoping for the best. To see why this command is actually safe to obey, you have to stand exactly where it was first spoken, and it is nothing like a quiet chapel. So walk into the scene with me. This is the second step, and it changes how the command feels in your body. Most people picture this verse being spoken in a quiet place, soft light through a window, a candle, maybe. Somebody kneeling in the calm, finally at peace. That is the setting we have wrapped around these words, but it is almost the exact opposite of where they actually land in the psalm. Back up a few lines from the command, and the noise is deafening. The earth is giving way. The mountains are falling into the heart of the sea. The waters are roaring and foaming. Whole nations are in an uproar. For the people who first sang this, that language was not poetry about a bad week. Mountains were the fixed things, the furniture of the world, the one part of creation you could count on to stay exactly where you left it. And the sea was chaos, the deep, the place of drowning and of monsters, everything a person could not control. So mountains falling into the sea meant the solid world sliding into the chaos. It was the sound of everything you had built your life on coming apart at once. Now, put yourself there. Have you ever had a season like that? Where the things you were sure of, the job, the marriage, the health, the plan, all seemed to move at the same time, and the ground you were standing on stopped feeling like ground. That is the room this command was spoken into, and then there is the line just before it, which almost nobody reads alongside "Be still." The psalm describes what God does to end a war. He breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. So picture that honestly. Snapped bows, spear shafts in pieces, a pile of shields going up in flames, which means burning leather and wood and hide, and the smell of it is awful. There is smoke over everything. Somebody has just ended a war by taking the weapons and setting them on fire. And it is into that scene, over the smoke, that the voice says, "Let go." Many readers have connected this psalm to one specific night in the history of Jerusalem. An empire had come down out of the north, the most advanced war machine the ancient world had ever built, and it had already swallowed town after town. By the time it reached the capital, 46 fortified cities had already fallen. The people were shut inside their walls, and the enemy commander stood outside those walls and shouted up at them, on purpose, in their own language, so every man on the ramparts could understand him. Your king cannot save you. Your God cannot save you. Name one nation whose God ever stopped us. And here is the detail I cannot get past. The people said nothing. The king had told them, "Do not answer him." So they stood on the wall, in range of the man screaming that their God was useless, and they kept their mouths shut. Sit with how hard that is. Everything in you wants to answer, to argue back, to defend yourself, to say the clever thing, to prove you are not as helpless as he says. And they gave all of that up. Not because they had nothing to say, because they had decided to let someone else do the answering. That silence was not weakness. It was not giving up. It was the most active kind of stillness there is, the kind that looks, from the outside, like doing nothing at all, and is actually the hardest thing in the world. Because what you are letting go of, when you go quiet like that, is the belief that if you just push hard enough, argue well enough, control the moment tightly enough, you can force the outcome yourself. And that, right there, is Rapha. Not a calm feeling, a choice, made with the enemy still at the gate. So notice what kind of command this really is. It is not whispered to someone safe. It is spoken over wreckage, to people who have just watched their world nearly come apart, with the smoke still rising and the threat still fresh in their memory. Which raises the strangest question in the whole psalm. If the danger was that real, Who exactly is God talking to when he says, let go? Because the answer is not who most people assume, and it is the key to why this command is mercy and not madness. So who is God actually talking to? This is the third step, and the answer is the thing that turns this command from cruel to kind. Up to this point in the psalm, the people have been singing about God. He is our refuge. He breaks the bow. Third person, the whole way through. And then, right at this verse, the voice changes without warning. God stops being sung about and starts speaking for himself. Let go, he says, and know that I am God. Now, the natural assumption is that he is talking only to his own frightened people, the ones on the wall, the ones who have been watching the mountains fall, and he is talking to them. But look at the rest of what he says, because it opens the audience up wider than you would expect. I will be exalted among the nations, he says. I will be exalted in the earth. The nations, those are the same nations that were in an uproar a few lines earlier. The same kingdoms that were raging, the same army that was screaming outside the wall. So a long line of readers going back to the ancient world understood this command as aimed not only at the trembling people inside, but at the raging empire outside. God turning to the war machine itself and saying, stand down, you are finished. Your bows are already broken and your shields are already burning. Open your hands and learn who I actually am. And, honestly, it may not be a choice between the two. This was a public song, sung out loud in the temple, and it aims outward at the whole earth while it lands on the people singing it. Which means something remarkable. The attacker and the attacked hear the exact same instruction. The one holding the sword and the one hiding from it are told the same thing. Everyone still gripping a weapon, of any kind, is told to open their hands. But here is the detail I do not want you to rush past. Look at when the command comes. Look at what God has already done before he ever says let go. He breaks the bow. He shatters the spear. He burns the shields down to ash. The weapons are already out of everyone's hands before the command is even spoken. And only then, into that cleared and smoking field, does the voice say, now let go. Sit with that order, because it is everything. He does not walk up to a terrified person in a room that is still dangerous and say, drop your defenses and just hope for the best. That would be cruel. That would be reckless. Instead, he deals with the threat first. He takes the weapons off the table. The fire is already lit. The smoke is already rising. The war is already over. And after the danger has been handled, he says, you can let go now. That is why this lands as mercy and not as madness. The releasing does not come before the rescue, it comes after it. And that changes what this word is asking of you too. The first of cladical W, because you are not being told to open your hands into empty air and pray something catches you. You are being told to open them after help has already arrived. Look back at the very first line of this psalm. Before a single person is told to release anything, the song has already announced who is near. God is our refuge and strength, a help richly found in trouble. The help shows up first. The command comes second. That is the order these things always have to come in, and this psalm is careful to keep them in exactly that order. So the command is not, let go and see if God shows up. It is, God has shown up, so now you can finally let go. If a study that goes this deep into the text is what you have been looking for, subscribing keeps these coming, and it keeps every single one of them free for anyone who needs it. That is the whole deal, and it genuinely helps. Now, everything so far has been about seeing the command clearly, but seeing it and obeying it are two very different things. Because there is a question sitting under all of this that almost every version of this verse quietly skips. If you are supposed to let go, then what happens to everything you are actually responsible for? That is the part people get stuck on, and the answer is far more specific than let go and let God. So here is the question everyone gets stuck on. This is the fourth step, and it is the one that keeps people from ever actually obeying this verse. If God is telling you to let go, then what happens to your responsibilities? What about the things that really are yours to carry? Does letting go mean walking away from all of it? No. And this is the distinction that changes everything, so stay with me, because it is more specific than the way people usually say it. There is a lazy version of this teaching that goes, just let go and let God, do nothing, and it will all work out. That is not what this psalm is after. Look at who God is in this song. He is the busiest character in it. He breaks. He shatters. He burns. He lifts his voice, and the earth melts. There is not one moment in the whole poem where nothing is happening. And the same scripture that says, let go, also says, stand firm. Keep watch. Work with your hands. Fight the good fight. Open hands are not folded hands. Releasing your grip is not the same thing as quitting. So how do you tell the difference? How do you know what to drop and what to keep holding? Here is the cleanest way I know to sort it. Ask yourself 3 questions about the thing you are gripping. First, is this mine to do or mine to control? Those are not the same. Your work is yours to do. The result is not yours to control. You can write the letter. You cannot make them write back. Second, can my effort actually change this, or am I just squeezing? Some of what you are carrying responds to effort. You do the next right thing, and it moves. But some of it does not move, no matter how hard you press. And all the squeezing does is exhaust you and convince you that you are helping. Third, and this is the one that cuts deepest, am I gripping the task or am I gripping the outcome? Because tasks can be written down and done. Outcomes were never in your hands to begin with. Run something through that right now, whatever is sitting heaviest on you today, and watch what happens. You will almost always find that what you are actually strangling is not a job at all. It is a result. It is a version of the future you have decided you must guarantee, and you have been holding it so tightly for so long that your knuckles have gone white and you have started to believe that if you loosen your grip for even a second, the whole thing falls apart. That belief is the thing you are being told to drop, not the responsibility. The belief that the outcome rests on how hard you hold. So, look at what that actually leaves in your hands. You still take the medication. You still send the next application. You still show up and do the hard, ordinary work of loving someone who is difficult right now. Every duty stays exactly where it was. What you set down is the exhausting conviction that you are the one keeping the world from ending. That if you stop rehearsing the worst case every night, you will be caught off guard. That staying afraid is somehow the same thing as staying in control. And here is why that is such a relief. Gripping the outcome never made you safer. It only made you tired. You were carrying something that was never yours to carry, which is exactly why carrying it never once made you feel better. Now watch how the verse pairs the 2 commands, because this is the part people miss. It does not just say, let go. It says, let go and know that I am God. And that word, know, is not about information. In Hebrew, it is a word about experience, knowing by contact, knowing something because you have lived through it, the way you know a person you have loved for 30 years, not the way you know a fact on a card, which means the 2 commands are chained together. One is how the other happens. You do not learn that God holds the world by reading it somewhere and agreeing with it. You learn it the day you finally stop holding the world yourself, and you watch, with your own eyes, as it stays up without you. That is a kind of knowing you cannot get in advance. You cannot borrow it from someone else's story. It only ever arrives on the far side of an open hand. Which brings us, finally, to the promise I told you to hold on to, all the way back at the beginning. Because this same word, Rapha, shows up one more time, and the last time it appears, it is not a command given to you at all. It is a promise spoken by God about his own hands, and it turns this entire verse inside out. Here is where everything turns around. This is the 5th step, the one I told you to hold on to at the very beginning, and it is the reason this verse can ask what it asks. We have spent this whole time with Rapha as a command. Something God tells you to do with your hands. Let go, loosen your grip, open them. But that is not the only place this word lives in the Hebrew Bible. There is one more scene, and in that scene, the same root shows up in the mouth of God, spoken about himself, and it flips the entire command on its head. Go to the edge of a river. Moses has just died. A man named Joshua is standing there with an entire nation behind him and a war in front of him, and every reason in the world for his hands to shake. And God speaks to him. "As I was with Moses," he says, "so I will be with you. I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. I will never leave you." In the Hebrew, that phrase is lo arpeka, and it is built on rapha, the very same root, the exact word you were just commanded to do to whatever you are holding. Except now God is saying it about you. So listen to what it actually means underneath the English. "I will not go slack on you. I will not loosen my grip. My hands will not open. Whatever happens, whatever comes, I am not letting go of you." Sit in that for a second, because this is the whole thing. Line the two up side by side. The verb God commands of you is the exact verb he rules out for himself. You are told to go slack. He announces that he never will. You are told to open your hands. He promises that his are staying closed, around you, no matter what. Your hands can open because his never will. That is the logic holding this entire command together. That is why it is not reckless advice. If nobody is holding what you set down, then letting go is just abandonment, and it would be a cruel thing to ask of a frightened person. But that is not the situation. The whole reason you can loosen your grip is that someone with a far stronger grip has already taken hold and has promised in the same breath, in the same ancient word, that he is never going to let go. And centuries later, a letter written to a group of exhausted, frightened believers, people who were losing their homes and their standing for their faith, reaches back and picks up that exact promise. "Never will I leave you," the writer quotes. "Never will I forsake you." A promise first spoken at a riverbank before a war ends up handed to a struggling church under pressure, doing the very same work, holding people who could not hold themselves. Now, there is one more thing in this psalm that I have to show you, because it makes the promise almost unbearably tender. The refrain of this whole song, the line that lands twice like an anchor, is this: "The Lord of hosts is with us." The God of Jacob is our fortress. And of all the names God could have taken there, he takes that one. Not the God of Abraham, not the God of Moses, the God of Jacob, and Jacob of all people. Jacob is the grabber. His name literally meant the one who grabs the heel. He came out of the womb holding on. He spent his whole life holding on, grasping for a blessing that was not his, deceiving his own blind father, wrestling with God in the dark and refusing to let go even when his hip was wrenched out of its socket. Jacob would not open his hands to save his life, and the God of this psalm, the fortress, the refuge, chooses to be known as his God. Do you see it? The God who is telling you to open your clenched hands calls himself the God of the man who would not open his, which means this command is not coming from someone who does not understand your grip. It is coming from the God of the grabbers. The God who met a man in the middle of his grasping and wrestled with him and did not walk away and blessed him anyway. He knows exactly what is in your hands. He is not asking you to pretend otherwise. He is saying, in the middle of the siege, with the nations raging and the earth shaking, you can open them now. I have got this. I have always had this. If any of this is landing on you right now, do me one small thing before the end. Tell me in the comments what you are holding, even one word. It helps this reach someone who needs to hear it today. So bring it all back together. The word was never about silence. It was about your hands. The command was spoken over a battlefield, not in a quiet room. It was aimed at everyone still gripping something, and it came only after the war had already been won. And underneath all of it sits a promise, spoken in the same breath as the command, in the same ancient word, that the God who is asking you to let go has himself sworn that he never will. So come back to the smoke one last time. The bows are broken, the spears are in pieces, the shields are burning down to nothing in a field where a war used to be. The nations have stopped shouting. The mountains that slid into the sea are somebody else's problem now, and the water that roared has finally gone quiet. And into all of that, a voice. Let your hands drop. Loosen your hold. You can let go now. And maybe you already know exactly what that voice is talking to in you. Maybe it is a diagnosis, and a folder of results you keep opening as though reading them one more time will change the numbers. Maybe it is a stretch of not knowing what comes next, where you have done everything you can do, and now you are just refreshing the same screen at 11 at night. Maybe it is someone you love who is drifting, and a season in your home that neither of you knows how to name yet. Whatever it is, you know the weight of it, and you know how long you have been gripping it. So hear this as clearly as I can say it. Letting go is never about walking away from what is yours. You still do the work. You still show up. You still love the difficult person and take the next hard step. What you set down is the outcome, the result you were never holding up in the first place. The one that was never in your hands to begin with. I am not going to promise you that opening your hands guarantees the ending you want. This psalm never promises that. People who let go still get hard news sometimes. What changes is not the news. What changes is who is holding you while you hear it, because the releasing and the knowing come together. You do not get to know that he holds you first, and then let go once you feel safe. It happens the other way around. You find out that he is holding you at the exact moment you stop holding yourself, not 1 second sooner. The hands you are finally opening are opening into a grip that has never once let go of you. So keep the verse where you can see it, on the wall. In your morning, it belongs there. Just let it be the size it actually is. Not a whisper about staying calm. A command from the God who ended the war, spoken to everyone still holding on too tight, and it says the same thing to the frightened and the fighting alike. Open your hands. He is never going to open his. If this helped you, take 1 second to like it and to subscribe. It is genuinely how these studies find the next person who needs them, and it keeps every one of them free. Thank you for spending this time in Psalm 46 with me. I hope the next time your world gets loud, this word sounds less like a whisper and more like the voice it has always been. May the God of Jacob be your fortress. May you find your hands open and his hands holding you, and may the peace of God, the kind that does not wait for the storm to pass, guard your heart today and every day after. God bless you.